This is MacroView Television, and welcome to a brand new edition of the Taiwan Outlook, the program that presents the different faces and let you hear the different voices on Taiwan. I'm your host, Wu Ruiguo. There are 158 universities and colleges in Taiwan. For some people, that is too many, and it may undermine Taiwan's academic competitiveness. We're going to find out on today's program about the state of Taiwan's higher education because we are delighted to have as our special guest Dr. Shieu Fuh-Sheng, who's currently the president of National Chung Hsing University. Welcome to our program, Dr. Shieu.
Hi, Raymond, and hi, dear audience. I'm delighted to be on your program.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you on the program, Dr. Shieu. First, we heard so much about the National Chung Hsing University. We understand it is one of the leading universities in Taiwan. But please give us a little more detail about National Chung Hsing University, please.
Our university was founded in 1919.
Yes.
So this coming November, we are going to celebrate 97th anniversary. So it's one of the oldest university in Taiwan, and it started with agriculture in Japanese occupation of Taiwan. And you may surprise that at that time, our university was located in where National Taiwan University is.
Oh, really?
And it's not until 1928 that we have Taihoku Empire University. So in that year, our university emerged to be a Department of Agronomy and Forestry in Taipei Empire University.
Okay.
And later in 1943, our university moved from Taipei to Taichung and then changed to Provisional Agricultural University. Okay. And then 1971 to be a National Chung Hsing University.
Okay.
So I'm very delighted to let you know that we are one of the oldest university and also a research university in Taiwan.
Good. And as I said at the beginning of the program, Dr. Shieu, there are 158 colleges and universities in Taiwan. Some people believe that is too many, especially given Taiwan's low birth rate, which we will talk about later in the program. What is your view over the number of universities and colleges in Taiwan? And what is the likely impact on Taiwan's environment for higher education?
Okay,
Please.
That's a good question because in my generation, when I was a senior high school student, at that time, the percentage of the student being able to enter college probably around 20%. But nowadays, almost 100%.
Yes.
So in my generation, at that time, we have only like a 60 university or college. And right now, as Raymond, you just mentioned, we have 158. So really, it's too many universities in Taiwan right now. And the disadvantage of the situation is that right now, almost everyone can get into college or university. And to be honest, not everyone suited to study or pursue their degree at college. It's better for some of the students. Maybe they go to job market, so to learn some skill, also to make a living. That's probably much better than the situation we have right now.
All right. And one argument that some people have made is that Taiwan's rapid increase in the number of universities and colleges may hinder Taiwan's process of becoming more internationalized in the academic environment in Taiwan. Do you agree with such an assertion?
Not totally agree because as you may see, if you compare the campus environment today with maybe 20 or 30 years ago, you have to be very pleased that we have now more foreign students as well as foreign faculty in Taiwan's higher education compared to like 30 years ago. So that's a good thing. But however, that if every high school graduate enter university, we are going to encounter a shortage of low-level technician or workforce. So that's the situation we have right now, that the company or industry, they cannot find a lower level workforce. However, our graduate cannot find a job in the job market. So it's kind of a very dilemma situation.
All right. And Dr. Shieu, some people who have studied and researched on Taiwan's higher education environment have said that since the 1990s, there are two major trends taking place in Taiwan. One is so-called decentralization. Can you first tell us a little bit about what that means, to say decentralization in Taiwan's academic environment for higher education?
I think on one hand, decentralization is a good thing for university because nowadays we can develop our university to a stage which can show our strength. Not like maybe 20 or 30 years ago. If we want to do anything, we have to get permission from Ministry of Education. Nowadays, the Ministry of Education released some of the authority. So at university, we can do something by our own to show our characteristic to attract talented people or students from abroad. So that's a good thing. And the second trend a lot of people have discovered is so-called marketization. Does that mean that universities and colleges in Taiwan will now need to go overseas, go abroad to try to recruit the top students and also the top faculty members to come to Taiwan's higher education institutions to go to school and also to teach and do research? Is that what it means? Yes, because like in my generation, 30 years ago, as a national university, you basically have to do nothing in order to get a good student to our university. Because at that time, as we just mentioned, the permission rate to college is probably just like a 20 or 25%. So only elite students can enter national university. But nowadays, as we almost have 100% of the high school graduate entering the college, and we have 158 college or university today. So there is a competition to recruit good students. So nowadays, many college or university, they have to hold a seminar outside Taiwan in order to get more foreign students coming to Taiwan. And Dr. Shieu, a lot of people said that over the last 20, 25 years, the biggest force that's changing different aspects of the world is so-called globalization. Certainly for Taiwan, we're a small island. We depend on exports, doing trading with others in order for economy to grow. Does that also imply that globalization as a force, global force, can also impact Taiwan's environment for higher education, making the national boundaries, blurred or even disappeared, having more of an open door policy? The top students, the top faculty members can now come to Taiwan to go to school or teach. Do you agree? Yeah, exactly. That's the situation we have right now in Taiwan, that we recruit faculty or students from other countries. At the same time, we send our students go abroad to pursue their advanced study. For example, as I just mentioned, when I was a college student, at that time we didn't see many foreign faculty and students in our campus. And that time, as I remember, each year we have close to 50,000 graduates went abroad to pursue their advanced degree. And we didn't have many foreign students or foreign faculty coming to Taiwan. Right now, the situation just opposite. That each year we have only like 25,000 students would go abroad to pursue their advanced study. But on the other hand, we have more foreign students coming to Taiwan. So that's a good thing. And also, as a result of marketization.
Okay. All right. And finally, we'll have about 2 minutes left in this part of the program. Dr. Shieu, we understand that you received your PhD from Cornell University in the U.S. And then thereafter, you returned to Taiwan and started your career, your teaching career at National Chung Hsing University. What are some of the biggest changes that you have seen on campus from the, almost 30 years ago when you first came back to Taiwan, and as to the campus that you see today?
Okay. First, I have to say, after I finished my PhD degree, I worked for Dow Chemical in Michigan for 3 years before I returned to Taiwan as a professor at the National Chung Hsing University. I have seen a big change in the higher education of Taiwan. As I just mentioned, right now we have more foreign students in our campus. And also, I think that the quality of education is much better in my university compared to like 20 or 30 years ago. So that's something I feel very positive and very pleased.
Okay. Well, certainly having talented people like yourself that is also committed to the education development in Taiwan certainly helps Taiwan's overall academic competitiveness, all right? And Dr. Shieu, we've been talking about the overall impact on Taiwan's higher education environment, given forces like globalization, and also the fact that we have another issue, not only Taiwan, but many of the advanced economies around the world also face, which is low birth rate. Taiwan is now, under former, President Ma Ying-jeou, has elevated the issue to the level of national security concern. Yes. Yeah. So, with one of the lowest birth rates in the world, do you think that this is, over the long term, is going to have an impact on Taiwan's ability to attract students, to sustain the 158 colleges and universities that we talked about?
I think the low birth rate is really a national security issue that we need to face and try to solve it in the future, very near future. Like this year, we are going to have maybe 20,000 less students than last year. So many universities or colleges, they are going to face a severe challenge. Right. So right now, as a national university, we are very fortunate that this kind of problem is not going to give us immediate pressure because unlike in the United States, most of the national or public universities in Taiwan have the advantage to provide better environment and also higher quality with lower tuition rate compared to the private university in Taiwan. So we have this kind of advantage. But overall, we still face the problem of international competition that we cannot just satisfy what we have right now. We need to compete with top university in the world. So we continue to recruit talented students from abroad. And that's a very important issue we face right now.
Okay. And Dr. Shieu, as you mentioned, for those of young people that are turning 18, they were born in the year roughly 1988. And that is the year of the tiger. And in traditional Taiwanese custom, that is the year that a lot of people will shy away from bearing children. All right. But on the other hand, 2 years later in 1990, for those people who were born in 1990, they were born in the year of the dragon. Dragon is a year, of course, a lot of people think it's a lucky year, it's a good year to bear babies. So this year, 2016, when the tigers are turning 18, you may have a shortfall of roughly 20,000. But maybe 2 years later, in 2018, that you're going to have a surplus, a lot more students, when they turn 18, since they were born, 1990 in the year of the dragon. So how do you then, like a, leading university like National Chung Hsing University, try to tackle this problem with the low birth rate on the one hand, also the local customs of having more children in the year of the dragon, for example?
I think first of all, for young couple, I would like to encourage you just forget about this kind of tradition.
Okay.
That you have to realize that when you have a baby in the year of dragon, they face severe competition.
Of course.
So you should rather than get birth in dragon year, you should get birth in tiger year.
Yes, as well. Yes.
But back to the issue, I think in higher education at Taiwan right now, the student faculty ratio is way too high compared to the research university in the United States.
Okay.
Typically for universities like Ivy League school, the student faculty ratio is typically around like 10.
Okay.
In other words, one faculty take care of 10 students.
Yes.
But that number in Taiwan is way up to like 30. So it's incredibly high.
Yes.
So with lower birth rate, I think one good thing we can do is to lower the number of the number of student faculty ratio.
Okay.
In other words, our faculty can take good care of the student.
Yes.
And that's going to improve our international competence.
Okay.
So that's a good thing.
All
And
right.
also with lower birth rate, I think we can improve the education quality at college, as I just mentioned earlier. But the important thing is that our government need to invest continuously in higher education, because our neighboring countries like Korea, China, Japan, even Hong Kong and Singapore, the government put a lot of investment, resources to higher education. So that's important.
All right.
Yeah.
And given the fact that we already have one of the lowest, if not the lowest, birth rates in the world, and this is not something that we can see corrected, overnight. It may take some time because it's very complicated, involving many factors. And if that trend continues, by the year 2022, out of the 158 colleges and universities in Taiwan today, maybe 30% of them is not going to be able to attract any students. This is going to be a serious blow to Taiwan's higher education environment. What is your view, Dr. Shieu, on this? Are you also as pessimistic as others that, in the years ahead, we're talking about 6 years away, that we may have 1/3 of the colleges and university has very few, if any, students?
Okay, I think I have a mixed feeling about the issues. Let me tell you a statistic first. That I read a report written by Professor Chen Dongsheng from National Taiwan University. In that report, they survey the young student at the age of 20. And it finds out that in Taiwan, at the age of 20, we have 73% of the young people study in university or college.
That's very high.
Very high compared to the United States. It's only 52%.
52%.
For Germany, it's even lower, only 26%. And the average number for OECD countries, the number is 38.
Okay.
And I think maybe 50% is a reasonable number for Taiwan. And right now we have a 73%. So if we agree, 50% is the
optimal.
Yes, optimum value.
Okay.
That means 1/3 of the university is going to disappear in 2020, as you just mentioned. But on the other hand, I think we need to change our idea about higher education, that really for a healthy society, we don't need to have so many young people, they all study in university. Some of them should work for the industry to solve a shortage of labor in industry. That's very important for our economic growth as a whole.
Yes, and Taiwan traditionally has been known for a very skilled labor force.
Exactly.
And like you mentioned, Dr. Shieu, if we have more young people starting to, get a job, get some skills and training, maybe we can change our workforce, the characteristics, going back to the days when Taiwan's skilled workforce becomes a huge plus as our economy continues to, transform itself. And on the other hand, some people have suggested Taiwan not only, having one of the lowest birth rates in the world, but also has an aging population. So there's been suggestions that maybe for some of the higher education institutions in Taiwan, they can consider offering some lifelong learning courses or even programs, to people who are a little more senior, but who will be willing to going back to colleges and universities, get a second degree or get another set of skills. Do you think this is something that maybe not right away, but maybe over the long term, could be another opportunity for many of the leading institutions in Taiwan?
I agree in some sense that lifelong learning may be another option to solve the problem of low birth rate.
Yes.
But as you may know, that as technology advances, nowadays we can learn things from either internet or from whatever you like. So it's not necessary to go to college in order to learn something. So in that sense, the university or college have to prepare different way rather than rely on lifelong learning. Because it's very important as a professor at university, I always encourage my students. It's very important for them to have a self-learning ability. Because faculty or professor won't be near you every moment. So you need
to have the initiative.
Exactly.
And Dr. Shieu, we've been talking about some of the challenges and also maybe opportunities facing, Taiwan's higher education institutions. Next, I'm going to ask you something. This is not something that happened just recently, but over the course of centuries of Chinese and Taiwanese history, there's always been that notion that everyone should try to get into a college and university and get a college and university degree. And as you mentioned in the earlier segment, that over roughly 73% of the young people in Taiwan are in university or college environment. That is way higher than most of the OECD countries. And given the fact that we're going to have problems with the low birth rates and the shortfall in students, then how can we, really alter our academic environment in the sense that we produce enough, the optimal number of college graduates, and also at the same time, a set of skilled laborers that will, continue to meet the needs of businesses and industries in Taiwan. What is your view on that?
I think back in maybe 30 years ago, we didn't have this problem. Of course, at that time, the enterprise environment is different from today. And the other thing is because at that time, we have a so-called vocational route, as well as conventional university route. If you graduate from vocational high school, then you will go to like a technology-oriented college. And if you graduate from regular,
yes.
conventional high school, then you get into conventional college.
Yes.
So at that time, we don't have problem of shortage of labor or technician. After educational reform, we merge them together and we expand the number of university or college in Taiwan. We start to see this kind of problem.
Okay.
That in industry, they won't find any labor or suitable, or skillful workers. And for university, after they receive their either bachelor or master's degree, they couldn't find a job.
Yes.
So there's a gap between the industry and academia.
Yes.
So that's a problem. As we just mentioned, 73% of high school graduates enter college.
Yes.
It's way too high. But of course, in the short term, it's very difficult to change this structure. First of all, I think our parents need to have a different view regarding degree or diploma, because it's not going to be a guarantee for the job. Some of the students may not suitable for higher education. It's better for them to get a job in industry.
Yes.
Later on, after they decided I want to have a college degree, then just go there.
Yes.
And it's going to be a much better situation.
Okay.
So we can start that right now.
Okay. And it's been suggested, that out of the 158 colleges and universities, if we can merge 1/3, like you mentioned, maybe cut the numbers, down to about roughly 100 colleges and universities in Taiwan in the next 10 years, then we will have the optimal number of colleges and universities on one hand, and also on the other hand, the resurrection of the vocational route, as you mentioned. Then we're going to have both, having the best ideal conditions, that some of the, conventional high school graduates will go to the conventional high school, colleges and universities. And on the other hand, that people who would like to get some, skills and also technical training, they can go to the vocational colleges and high schools. So do you think that, something like this can really reduce the kind of dilemma, as you mentioned, that Taiwan's higher education faces today?
I think in this issue, Germany may be a good example for us to learn. In fact, 30 years ago, we followed the pattern that Germany does. But later on, after educational reform, we start to follow different route. So if everyone agree, then I think the Ministry of Education, they should think about that issue in this way, rather than just reduce the number of university or college, because it's going to be a very difficult job to work. In current situation, in order for two university or college merge together, the faculty member can show their willingness by casting their vote. And typically that's going to be a very tedious and also very, tough job to complete it. When I was the Dean of Research and Development at the National Chung Hsing University, at that time we carried out a program, try to merge with a public educational college in Taichung. But it ended up with a failure because it's very difficult for our counterpart university to cast their vote and say yes. Just like what we learned from newspaper a few months ago, that 2 or 3 universities in Taipei, they want to merge together, but still fail. So we need to have a different mechanism in order to carry out this program.
All right. And Dr. Shieu, we understand that you're now the president of National Chung Hsing University. I don't know if the next question is sensitive at all, but do you have any plans to merge with other academic institution of higher education, whether it's public or private, as far as you can tell us on the program today, please.
I think, to be honest, I have something in my mind.
Okay.
But it's really not an issue that I can decide by myself.
Okay.
It's up to many factors,
yes.
parameters. Also depends on, for example, Minister of Education.
Okay.
If they support and our counterpart also agree. Then it's easy to
yes.
get success.
Yes.
Otherwise, we just spend a lot of effort,
okay.
but end up with failure.
Okay.
I'm not going to try that.
Okay. But we certainly think, since we've been talking on the program today,
yes.
that we have maybe too many universities and colleges
yes.
in Taiwan. So maybe merger is a way,
yes.
for some of these, institutions to consolidate and also offer more resources in a more condensed environment to the students and faculty members. So I understand the sensitivity involved, but certainly want to wish you, under your leadership at National Chung Hsing University, that this merger, the plan to merge other universities can continue, even though I know along the way you're going to have some difficulties. And before we end this part of the program, Dr. Shieu, I want to ask you about the cooperation between universities in Taiwan, and Chung Hsing included, of course, and with Taiwan's businesses and industries. This is so-called the 建教合作.
Yes.
And this has been a long tradition in Taiwan for many years. But, since, what you mentioned about the education reform in Taiwan, we don't pay as much attention to that as before. But now, with the industries and businesses asking for more, suitable graduates from our education systems, then there's been, calls for more interactions and more cooperation with businesses and industries. And what is your view on this? And is there currently any cooperation program between National Chung Hsing University and industries on the other hand? Please.
I think it's quite clear that as a research university, we should cooperate and collaborate
yes.
with industry, with our community.
Yes.
But it depends on the characteristic of the industry. For example, as you just mentioned, so-called 建教合作, maybe 30 or 40 years ago, it was a quite successful
yes.
example, because at that time our industry is basically a very labor-intensive
yes.
situation. So for vocational college or school, their student can go there to work as a part-time. Also, they can make some money for living.
Yes.
But nowadays, our industrial environment has changed significantly. We need to have a technology, and also we need to have a skill. Also, the mindset have to be right.
Yes.
And that remind me that when I was a graduate at Cornell University, we had a very strong tie with big companies like IBM, like Kodak, like Xerox, like Bell Laboratory. We have many research collaboration together. Unfortunately, in Taiwan, more than 90% of our business belong to so-called small or medium-sized enterprise.
Yes.
And for this kind of scale, they won't have enough resource to do research. So basically, they just manufacture it. What they need is just cheap labor. And that's not going to be good for a research university. We won't send our students go to a manufacturer just doing the routine or labor-intense job.
Yes.
We want them to use their technology, use their knowledge
yes.
to commercialize or to improve the value of the product.
Exactly.
That's what we want to do.
Okay.
So in one sense, we need to change the characteristic of our enterprise rather than university. I think as a university, we need to have give our students very solid, concrete foundation.
Yes.
That's very important.
Dr. Shieu, I very much agree with your position on this because it needs to be a collaboration
Exactly.
Between the academic community and also the business and industry on the other hand. And it has to be something that's taking place in in synergy. People have worked together.
Exactly.
And then they can combine the resources and produce the kind of environment that's most conducive to the young people in Taiwan. Yes. Dr. Shieu, we've been talking about the kinds of challenges and opportunities for Taiwan's higher education institutions. And for this part of the program, we're going to talk about an ongoing project launched by our Ministry of Education and to encourage and the leading universities and colleges in Taiwan in the so-called Aim for the Top University project. And this is, of course, a project that's ongoing. As you mentioned it to me earlier in the taping, that it's been going on, almost 10 years.
Yes.
Okay, and then we're now in the second phase, and National Chung Hsing University has been a big part of the project. Can you then first give us an assessment of the project itself? And also, secondly, do you think that National Chung Hsing University has already achieved the objective under the so-called Aim for the Top University project? Please.
I think overall for this program, I give a positive reply to what you asked.
Okay.
Because back in 2005, we start to receive the funding from Ministry of Education. At that time, each year, our faculty and students produce around 500 scientific papers at that time.
All right.
Nowadays, the number up to like 1,300. So
really?
it's almost
more than double.
More than double. So. What that means? That means that our students have the ability to do independent research and also try to write a research paper. That won't happen before without the assistance of this program. So in that part, I have to give a very positive conclusion for that. And also, we just mentioned about the globalization.
Yes.
And with this funding, we do a lot of international exchange. We do recruit more foreign students as well as foreign faculty coming to our university to teach.
Okay.
So nowadays we have more English taught courses than ever before.
Terrific.
And also the infrastructure for the university, for example, teaching facility as well as research facility have been improved much more than ever before. So with the assistance of this funding, our university has advanced significantly compared to like 10 years ago.
Okay.
But in general, there are some drawback for this program too, because people, maybe also faculty and some students complain about that the university emphasize on research rather than teaching.
Okay.
So we create a lot of award for those faculty members who devote their time and patience to teaching.
Okay.
And we also give them subsidy to encourage their accomplishment.
Okay.
And also we encourage our students and faculty to promote industrial collaboration too. So from the number of patents we receive from the Patent Bureau, I think has doubled over the 10 years.
That's wonderful.
So also a very significant improvement. And of course, nowadays we hear different voice that for the post-ATM program, we need to change the structure because for research, some people say it's the obligation of Ministry of Science and Technology. They should take care of research. Ministry of Education, they should emphasize on cultivation of talent rather than doing research. Of course, we heard about that sound.
All right.
Yeah.
And we understand that maybe as soon as next year, 2017, this aim for the top university project could enter into the next phase. And we are certain that National Chung Hsing University, under your leadership, will also be a big part of that project in the next phase. What is the objective that National Chung Hsing University would like to accomplish, under the project in the next phase?
There's a problem with resource allocation in Taiwan. National Chung Hsing University is the only research receiving the ATU program. And there are 12 universities in Taiwan receiving the funding from government. 9 of them are in north part of Taiwan, only 1 in central Taiwan, and 2 in the south part of Taiwan. So there's resource disparity in this regard. So hopefully in the future, the Ministry of Education will pay attention to this issue. But as we just mentioned, globalization is international competition. Nowadays, we need to face challenges not from Taiwan, but also from top universities, other countries. So our aim for this program in the future is to put more effort to recruit international students as well as foreign faculty coming to our university to join as a faculty member, because I believe that's an important element for a so-called world top university.
And given the fact that we are likely to see the aim for the top university project entering into the next phase, do you think that in terms of how the resources are being spent by the different university recipients, should there be more latitude, even more latitude given to the university administration themselves instead of the government, whether it's the Ministry of Education or others, telling the universities what to do?
Yes, I think for the ATU program, it's a concept of so-called block funding. So although Ministry of Education give you certain amount of money, they don't ask you how to allocate, how to distribute the budget. They just want you to set some objective. And at the end of the year, you have to evaluate if you reach your goal or not. So in one sense, that's a good thing. But because the original idea of this program is to promote or push some of the Taiwan university up to the so-called international or world-class university. And we have seen that among the 12 universities, at least 4 or 5, they are among the top 500 universities. So in that sense, I think that's a good result.
And finally, before we end the program today, Dr. Shieu, we've been talking about forces like globalization, internationalization. You and I agree on the program that there should be more open door policy for Taiwan's academic higher education environment. But there's also another school of thought saying that Taiwan's environmental conditions for higher education is a little bit too protective. We're a little too reserved, inward looking. We don't look out out of Taiwan enough. What is your view on this? And do you think enough attention has been paid to make Taiwan's higher education environment more internationalized and also more globalized?
I think in one sense, we are overprotected. That's correct in one sense. But we have to think about the structure of the university in Taiwan, which has many advantages. For example, I think that we have a reasonable low tuition.
Yes.
We have affordable living expense in Taiwan. And also, I feel that people in Taiwan, no matter if it's a public or faculty or student, are very friendly.
Yes.
Which is going to be a plus for
Huge
Taiwan.
plus.
Yeah, a huge plus for us to recruit talent students from other countries. So in that sense, I think we should have confidence that our competence is quite strong.
Okay.
So we should open our door. We don't fear to compete with other countries.
Okay.
But of course, as I mentioned earlier, that the student-faculty ratio in Taiwan is way too high.
Okay.
We need to reduce that number. And of course, as a national university, many of our faculty members are protected by the government.
Okay.
They are so-called public servant, part of public servant. But the funding we receive from government has decreased significantly over the past 10 years. 10 years ago, if we look at the budget, annual budget for the university, the funding from Ministry of Education take about like 70%, 70%.
Okay.
Today, the funding from government only 35%.
Really?
Yes.
It's half.
So almost half. So
Okay.
that's part of the problem that we have too many universities, as we just mentioned. So
Good.
really, not only the Ministry of Education, as well as the university, we have to look into the problem and try to solve to make our university more competitive in the future.
And Dr. Shieu, it's certainly been a pleasure to have you on the program today. I have learned a lot. I'm sure our audience has learned a lot from talking with you today. I certainly want to wish you all the best in the future, your professional and personal endeavors. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Raymond. It's my great pleasure.
Well, the pleasure is ours. Yeah, thank you for watching our program today. I'll see you next time on MacroView Television. Thank you.